Well, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you're a returning visitor. Thank you for being part of my journey. Today, I'm going to be focusing on some content, not just a matter of updating the channel, but I'll also be referring back to a conversation that I had with somebody, and I'm aware that this person actually told me that they've watched one of my yarning videos recently. They've become aware of the channel, and of course they're known to me. This person, I think, will know who they are. I'm not going to mention their name, not at this point in time anyway, but basically this is dedicated to some concepts around the conversation that we had the other day. And where I'm going with this is that's basically what we're going to be doing. But before I get into the content, for the people that are new to the channel, just a reminder, because I can go down a tangent, I do scripts or the transcripts, but I will quite often deviate from them. And I'm comfortable doing that. It might not be comfortable for other people, but I'm comfortable with that because I want all of the information that I provide to people to be relatively genuine, authentic type stuff. And I invite people to share, of course, their experiences. I'm not a fan of AI voiceovers, so I make really no apologies for my hums, haring, at the moment, obviously a bit of background noise with the little doggy, stuff like that. But anyway, I've diverted straight away just in the introduction, which is if you're in a hurry and my videos get a bit long, there is timestamps in the description, so you can just go to the areas of interest for you. Anyway, once again, I must say I'm late. So much for the Sunday yarning. I've been loading it on Mondays, and I've got to revisit my time management going forward. So that's part of the plan for me. Anyway, let's jump in. Also, if you find any of the content useful, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. That would be very helpful for me. Thank you. Anyway, on with today's video. So generally speaking, I like to start the yarning videos with something to do with gratitude, because gratitude is what creates, it acts as a magnet. It just brings more to us. And if we're genuinely appreciative of things, it just becomes a natural energetic flow to attract more of the same to us or better. And I just try to make gratitude a habitual thing as well. But as with all of us, I guess at different times we start to go like, I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that. And it can feel a little bit insincere. So where I'm going with this particular topic is today I was thinking, I always say thank you for the beautiful birds, and I try and share with you the type of birds that I've had visiting my garden because I just love them and I'm into animal wisdom. But today I was struggling a little bit to come up with something different. I wanted to have a different thing. And I thought, you know what? I'm actually going to do today, I am grateful for breath. I am grateful for the capacity to still be able to breathe, for my lungs that are unsupported. And I think it's fairly interesting that I sort of had that light bulb moment to be grateful for breath when I've actually got an ammonite sitting on the desk beside me. If you know anything about ammonites, I've actually put the video up, which is one of the primary, I suppose, attributes of the ammonite is that forward motion or any form of movement for these animals back in the day was through breath. It was pockets of air would float them onto the next stage. So the breath that we're talking about is the reason I'm grateful for it is because life presents challenges to all of us. And I've long been a believer that while we have breath, we have hope. Even in the most dire of circumstances, the fact that we still have breath means that we can change. And that could be we can change the environment where we live, or we might be changing our attitudes and beliefs around some of the problems, anything like that. But there was something that came to me actually as I was doing this, which was, yes, the other, where my thoughts initially ran to, where there's breath, there's hope. It's also, while we have breath, we can move forward. Huge. That just came to me as I was just talking to you, is we're never actually stuck enduringly in one spot, whatever our environment is. While we still have breath, we can actually move and shift around and change the environment as well as change our responses to problems. So when we talk about the heart chakra, I'm motivated to speak to this partly because of the conversation that I had with this person this week. And this actually ties into the conversation that we had. But I'm going to start with the heart chakra stuff, which is, yes, I've been working on the website. It hasn't been published yet to show you some of the developments that are going on. But one of the things that I guess in a way has become a bit of a stonewall for me this week has been working on the heart chakra content, because everything is simple yet complex, and trying to articulate and express it effectively when it's in the written word has been a bit of a challenge for me, because many people, what I've seen, and I think I've mentioned it in previous videos, is many people associate the heart chakra purely with the green, the emerald green. Like if you talk to people that are into crystals, they'll turn around say straight away, you know, we all need a piece of malachite for our heart chakra. Well, I say if you can afford a piece of malachite, go you. You know what I mean? But it's become very expensive. But where I'm trying to, or the point I'm trying to make is that they associate it with green. Now, while that's true, the heart chakra is also associated with pink, and different shades of pink, of course, the same as different shades of green is related to the heart chakra. But they have specific, this is where the chakras tie in with the colours. So the green type refers to the capacity to hold love and forgiveness towards other people that may have let you down, or maybe you just love them so much that, you know what I mean, you focus on accommodating their needs. I'm having a look at my notes here. Basically, I need to remind people that there is a duality where the other chakras tend to just have the one color. It could be yellow, of various shades and hues. The heart chakra is the one that's got two colors associated with it. Let me check my notes for a sec. Yeah, I guess it's when we talk about going into the higher chakras, which of course the heart chakra is one of the first of the higher chakras in the human body. This is when we are shifting into a different consciousness, where we are learning that there is more to the world. And when I say learning, at a core level, knowing, there becomes that inner knowing that there is more to the world than us. That equally, you know what I mean? We all have that divine spark that sits within our heart chakra. And how am I going to explain this? So many people struggle to receive love, okay? If they're focused on the giving of love and being loving towards other people, then they generally have, a very open green aspect of the heart chakra. However, if they are non-receptive to other people being loving to them, remember there's that saying, loved, loving, lovable. A lot of people struggle to feel love or to be loved because they don't perceive themselves to be lovable. And they can even be in partner relationships or family units and all the rest of it, but they tend to be the givers. This is where there is an imbalance in relationships, and it's generally because there is this belief within that a person's not good enough or somehow falls short of being able to be loved. And that falling short, that belief in not being good enough, is the pink stuff. Anyway, where I'm going with this is I want to talk about the forgiveness aspect, because when we talk about forgiveness as well, there's a duality there. There is forgiving other people. Actually, I've got to make the point here, to be able to go up with any sense of reliability to those higher chakras and really tap into your potential and to be able to achieve your potential, it all starts in the heart chakra. And a lot of people struggle because they wonder, you know, I'm a loving person, I'm a good person, I'm X and I'm Y, and I try to be nice and I try to be compassionate, but why am I not breaking through perhaps my throat chakra and being able to express? Or why is it I'm still struggling with my intuitive abilities? Why am I not able to reach the next stage and phase? And it's because usually, I'll say this, in most instances, it's because of a lack of self-belief. It is a rejection of self as being loved, I guess, and lovable. And so in the process, people, I'm kind of digressing a little bit here. So this becomes about accepting self. I'll try and keep it short because we're under 5 minutes for this slide already. the point being that once we've reached a certain stage, we accept that this idea of perfection is a human idea of perfection, that we must somehow, if we're not part of a church or part of a religious institution and up there and perceived to be a holy person that doesn't partake in alcohol, doesn't eat meat, that you've got to do all these things to be able to access these higher realms, then we stay locked and stuck, because the bottom line is these are ideas of perfection that are man-made. The divine, if we want to call it God, creator, whoever it is, actually sees you as being perfect wherever you are right now in your part of the world. That doesn't mean to say that we are superior to other people. We're not. But we all are all in this constant state of evolution, not just of our physical human being, but also our spiritual being. And so it's not a case of striving to be better than we are, but it's a case of recognizing right now we're okay and we're on a journey. And if we've got some issues, you know what I mean, that we're not proud of, maybe you suffer from angry outbursts or something like that, well, that's okay. I mean, it's not great, but you have a choice there. You have a choice to actually regulate your emotions and to strive toward creating change. It doesn't make you a bad person because you have these strong emotions. It just means that you're growing and evolving, and that is the point of us actually being here, to grow. Now, a lot of the time, I just want to check my notes again for a second, because I'm going really down a steep waffle here. Okay, so having checked them, I'm putting here that one of the other really big stumbling blocks for us being able to access these higher realms is when we hold on to toxic and painful emotions related to the past, that we struggle to shift past the pain, if you like, and we are judgmental and not accepting of other people for who and what they are. Same as with us, we probably are our harshest critics. So if we want to be able to open up to these higher realms, then we've got to go through that process of forgiveness, acceptance. Some people call it surrender to the life as it is. But in this process, the heart chakra will be activated. Now, of course, we've got to be able to be motivated to do this work. And for some people it will be, I want to access my guides because I want to have control over my situation, or some of these people that have treated you harshly in the past or whatever. Look, I say, whatever floats your boat and motivates you to achieve this goal of achieving your potential. But at the same time, if we want to be reliable, if we want to have because we are creators of our own destiny to a large extent, then we will be wanting to incur positive karma for us, because every action there's a reaction and there's going to be karma. Now, if we've got a balanced and healthy heart chakra, then we're going to be creating positive karma, and that actually means purity of intention. But anyway, I've waffled on about this for a bit now, so let's move on to the next slide. So the conversation that I had with the person this week led me down this pathway, which was, I didn't actually get as far into the conversation. I'm hoping that if she watches the video, this will fill in some of the gaps for her. Anyway, part of blocking the heart chakra and preventing this forward growth and motion is these misguided beliefs and concepts that we have about who and what we are. Like I said, that's a self-love aspect, excuse me. Anyway, what we tend to find, and this is based, this now becomes points that are made based on my understanding of energy and chakras, as well as combined with my understanding of the impacts of child development, having studied at uni. Anyway, most psychologists and psychotherapists and all the rest of it, if you've got somebody that's really suffering from mental health conditions and psychological disorders, they have what is called cognitive flaws, which is the neural pathways of this poor self-image, and it's generally associated with negative mind chatter of, I'll just do examples here of you're a useless person, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that. This is the stuff that people have been told throughout those early developmental years. And this is when they're in a toxic family unit, of course. And this just becomes almost like an automatic replay whenever they face a challenge. Instead of going, oh, let's put this into perspective, that was a bit of a mishap or whatever, they become very judgmental and critical of themselves and do that negative speak, of, oh, I'm such an idiot, I'm a fool, I should have, would have, could have, all of this kind of stuff. Anyway, so the relevance of this is that the voice is usually associated with at least one person during those early formative years. And it could be a toxic or harmful parent, it could be a toxic or harmful sibling. But as we mature and we get older, those people may still remain being the toxic people that they always were, because that might be part of their character. And they may have chosen not to develop and to heal whatever inner child damage is going on for them, So we might see a person of perhaps even 65 or 70 who is still emotionally at the level that they were when they were a child in that early family unit, who is still exhibiting these nasty toxic behaviours towards people, which is, at the end of the day, we're talking about abuse, even if it's just emotional abuse or psychological abuse. I'm saying even just, but anybody that's been through that will know that it's extremely harmful, and it can take real commitment to move beyond this kind of abuse. Now, I've done a whole transcript here, but I'm actually now going to condense it and try and talk about how I managed to make it work for me and to overcome the abuse from my childhood in regard to a particular sibling. And it involved a lot. The first part was actually prior to me doing any energetic work or any knowledge or understanding of chakras. It was probably about year 2000 or pretty close to it. I obviously had recognised I was in an abusive marriage, and I'd started getting the services of a counsellor and seeing them. And in the process, this counsellor asked me because I've got a toxic relationship or have had a toxic relationship with a sibling. And the counsellor asked me, when did this toxicity start? And I thought, as you do, I started that in a reflection, and I actually couldn't put my finger on when it all began. But also my nature being who I am was at the time, I must have done something to upset her for the types of reaction that I have had and the enduring reactions that I've had. But anyway, suffice to say, it took me a lot of effort and a massive big argument and persistence with my mother to get to the bottom of when did this hatred from her towards me start. And this is that case of, well, actually it really is. I didn't ever do anything to warrant the hatred or the toxicity. It was just something that I had been exposed to, because it took a lot of effort before my mother actually told me, almost under her breath, but she realised I was not going to give up. I wanted an answer. When did she first observe toxicity from my older sibling towards me that was unfounded and whatever? Anyway, long story short, she told me she remembered exactly when it happened. And she said to me, it was actually when I was a baby, it was when I was born. And it went down to sibling rivalry. My sister was 3 years older than me. And she told me about a scenario where, from a position of hindsight, I think I was probably about 35 at the time, where she said she looks back now, and she blamed herself, I've got to say. And she was like, well, I suppose it's my fault because I didn't actually address it then. I knew what she did was wrong, but I felt sorry for her because she was 3 and before you were born, she was the apple of a dad's eye, and after you were born, he only had eyes for you because you were a beautiful baby, kind of thing. Which I've got to say was pretty stark at the time. The other thing was, so I guess where I'm going with that is that confirmed none of the viciousness from this sibling towards me was related to anything I'd done. It just was a matter of fact. It was just something that happened. And then the other thing two was after I left my abusive husband, I started doing a bit more inner work, and I learned, or I saw something that said, we women will marry our fathers. Not necessarily, don't get too caught up with that. But basically, we role model our partner on our father. So, how our father treats our mother is the kind of man that we're going to be attracted to, because that's what we see to be acceptable. Now, the funny thing is, my father was not abusive at all. He adores my mother. Just so you know, it works the other way around as well. Men tend to be attracted to women who are like their mothers. It's not always apparent, by the way. You've got to dig deep sometimes to see this. And this is because our mothers are role modeling relationships to our sons as well, But anyway, where I'm going with this is, I recall turning around way before I had worked out what we're going to look at on the next slides. I made a comment to one of my other sisters, and I said, look, I've heard this piece of information. I said, I'm really struggling with it. I said, because I can't see that I role modelled there. I said, I can see how there's similarities between my ex-husband and my older sister. I said, but I don't see it with my dad. I didn't back then. But anyway, whatever, moving on. Hopefully that has some kind of resonance for you. So now I'm going back to the conversation that I had with the person, and it was only a brief one, but I think it's useful for other people. Other people may be interested in it, because it really helps to heal a lot of that pain and grief that we might have around these toxic family relationships. And I know honestly that I am not alone with this. It's very easy to personalize another person's abuse and make it your problem. It's not your problem, it's actually theirs. That doesn't mean you're a narcissist. It just means being honest with yourself, okay? If you feel that there's relevance to comments that they say, then go and do some self-development. But either way, I'm going to discuss here the divine plan and how I made peace with certain aspects of my journey, and the healing of the emotional wounds. Anyway, many, many years ago, I think it might have been about 2001, I learned about the divine plan. It was mentioned to me, and then I sort of did my own reflections and research, and as you do, you get that little seed of information, if you like, and you just keep, I suppose, reflecting. It prompts more questions to reflect upon, and then to find your own answers. Anyway, so my concept of the divine plan includes one that's called a soul pack and a divine family, and that we as souls have choices before we're born, as part of that divine plan, a divine pathway, that each one of us has to experience something for the greater good, not only of our own soul growth, but also the soul pack. And so we're born into these bodies for these specific purposes. Not everything, just got to remind you, not everything that crosses our life path is predestined. We do have free choice and will in a lot of things, but there are some things that we come across in life that are predestined. Now, for me, perhaps the way I would put this is, if we're supposed to learn strength in this life path that we're walking on the planet, then we're going to need to experience challenges to test our strength, because the reality is, you speak to any person that is called, but you're strong. It's like, I wasn't born strong. I grew strong. I developed strength because of the challenges that were put across my path. And so this is what we do. And we need people, if we're to learn strength, for example, we need those people that are going to challenge it. Now, the other thing that relates to this is, when it comes, the other thing that I got told was that the harder the lesson that we learn, or the more impacting on our emotional state as we walk the planet, the stronger the actual soul connection is. So to try and put this in perspective, and I suppose make it a little bit more human, I would put my sister, the one that I'm thinking of, up there as one of my primary teachers for this life path, because from a human perspective, if we were to look at her behaviour towards me, obviously from the time I was born, as my mother has said, I think it would be not unreasonable to consider her to be quite vicious, actually, and even sadistic might be words that definitely come to mind when I think about some of her behaviours towards me. So from a human perspective, I can see that and recognise that in her. I can also recognise that actually she hasn't changed, because I more recently caught up with her after about 20 years, and that was a bit of an eye-opener for me. But anyway, I've just distracted myself. So from a human level, we can have those kind of critical judgments, if you like, but maybe they're discernment, maybe it's not just judgment. But from a soul level, it's like she's done her job well. If she and me were there as souls before we were born, and we were sitting around talking about, hey, Anna, when you're born, you're going to have to learn strength, and you're going to have to do X and Y, and you are going to have a strong personality there that will help you to learn strength. And I'm going to be that. I will be all of that. That could have been my sister's comment. Well, she has done her job. So hats off to her. She has taught me some amazing lessons of self-respect, self-value, self-esteem, rising above problems, all of those things. So actually, she is a blessing to me, although it didn't feel great at different times across the life path. Now, just to also summarize this before I move on to the next one, it is because of this that I have really embraced the concept of giving thanks for blessings seen and unseen, because a lot of the time we don't know those blessings until much later on down the track. I probably will not realize in all fullness until after I've left my body just what a blessing my sister is. But at the same time, I just want to say, from a human perspective, there is another saying I got told many years ago is, you know that you're healed when that person that used to create these large reactions for you no longer creates those massive reactions, when basically it has no impact on you to be in their presence. I would say, in all honesty, I've healed a lot, but I probably still have some residual there, because when I caught up with her, I know that I actually felt a bit nervous, and I was a little bit worried that there might be some negativity that would occur from her towards me. However, she managed to contain it well. So the other thing I would say is, I've recognised for me, it might be different for you, it might be the same for you, is that as far as my contact with her goes, I no longer hold bitterness towards her. I just choose not to have her as part of my social circle, because actually, from a moral or rational standpoint, we're just not compatible. We're just walking different paths, and so therefore, I do have the video up on boundaries. So to try and put this into perspective, she would stay in the boundary where I can go and meet her in a social setting. It's fine. I'll be polite to her as I would to anybody that is not one of my best mates, but she will never be allowed into my intimate circles, not in this lifetime. I can't see that happening. I don't say never, actually, maybe it will change, but I just can't see that happening. So I hope I'm demonstrating here a level of forgiveness that I hold towards my sister, and I guess a certain amount of respect for the fact that she's actually been one of my greatest teachers, one of my most painful teachers as well, but definitely up there as one of the greatest ones. And now, I guess, before I go on to the channel update stuff, just a reminder, because I do these quotes, and I love actually doing the quotes, because quite often I find at least one or two that resonate with me that I actually really like. And at the moment, I've been doing a series on Eckhart Tolle. And if you don't know who he is, I'd like to think that you do. But if you don't, he's an author, and many of his books are written about the power of now, where he promotes living fully present, right here and now. And I don't know why I've named the slide here, now and then. Maybe because then is yesterday. Okay, so I can't remember the specific quote that it was, but it resonated deeply with me, which is that it was a reminder, actually, because the first time I've just diverted off on a waffle. The first time I started embedding this thought process for me was actually when I had a cancer scare many years ago, back in year 2000, and there was a waiting time frame. And so you can imagine I was pretty anxious and worried about it. And I realized at that time that when I was worrying, and this is what Eckhart's quote is about, is that if you've got anxiety and you're worried, you're thinking about the future, right? And you're thinking about things that might not ever happen, right? And then the thing is too, that if you're thinking about what happened yesterday, and this is people with trauma conditions or depression or whatever, grief and loss even, when you are locked in the past and thinking about things that happened, you're unable, whether it's being futuristic in your thinking or whether it's being locked in the past and rumination, it steals the joy from the present moment. It keeps a person either locked in this pain and unable to shift forward, or it keeps them so wound up that they fail to miss those moments to be happy because they just don't see them. They're distracted. Their mind is off somewhere else instead of thinking about right where they are now. I also thought about giving you a really simple example of how this can play out, this business of worry and rumination, stealing from the present. Just a really simple example of it was that I got asked by my son to drive to a suburb, and I hate driving through traffic. You've got no idea. And then I hate having to go into these massive big stores and trying to find the parking and all of that. It's just such a deterrent. So anyway, he asked me to do this drive and go and pick up something for him from a shop because he works out of town, out of the city. So anyway, I agreed because, from his perspective, I can see that it's not an unreasonable request. For me, it filled me with loathing and dread and actually threw me off my path. And in fact, I would say that's one of my obstacles this week. It was like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that because I've got to go over and pick up this stupid thing, as you do. Until such point as I realised that I actually wasn't even doing anything that I was meant to be doing, because I was sitting there fretting about having to face the traffic and having to face the car park. Car park did actually end up being a nightmare. I had to do what we call bog laps around it, drive round and round till I could get a parking bay. But whatever, anyway, by the time I went and did it, I probably lost a day and a half just stressing about doing this drive. Anyway, so here, now and then, I should have not procrastinated and just jumped straight into it so that I could get back on and feel comfortable with what I was doing. So having said that, just an update on the next event. Just a reminder, so this is now the channel and website and all of that kind of stuff update. Remember, second Wednesday of every month, the tickets are up. What is that? That's 2 weeks away, nearly. Whatever, anyway, I'll have a look. I'll have a look and put the date up. Just a sec, I'll check it right now, actually. Just checked it. Okay, it'll be Wednesday, October the 8th. That'll be the next one. Now, I've ordered a lot of product. I've got a lot of product that's coming in, including Iolite. I've got some Tanzanite coming as well. I've managed to lay my hands on some orca agate as well, which I really am interested in that, just off the top of my head. And I really can't remember all of it, okay? But I've got some new product and I'll certainly update when it's arrived, because at the moment a lot of it's pending. And in fact, don't forget my Seraphinite. So I've ordered all of this stuff and it turns out they've actually been holding it. They haven't dispatched it. It has been dispatched now, but I'm actually really hopeful that it will arrive before we have this event, because I've got some really lovely stuff coming. I'm also hopeful that Sam the Tarot Reader is going to be there again, and Karen the Medium, but I will keep you up to date about it. So as far as the web development and upgrading goes, look, that still is a work in progress. It's definitely going slower than I would like, but I've actually had a conversation with somebody the other day and they're going to come over and have a look, and maybe we can work together to try and push it through a little bit quicker, but time will tell, because I've got big plans for how I want it to look to make it more user-friendly. Anyway, moving on from that. The chakra content is a work in progress, and that's actually causing me a bit of a brain strain. And this is because I'm seeing a lot of, I'm seeing a lot of useful and helpful information as well, but I'm also seeing a lot of misinformation. And I think this is largely because people are copying and pasting content. And it also could be that they're relying on AI such as ChatGPT to put information across. Now, I have my own understandings and awareness of certain things because I've spent time looking at them and reflecting and all the rest of it. So I'm quite happy to put that information up there. But when we're talking about the chakra content, such as the Bindu and the Kundalini chakras, I understand how they work based on my own experience, but I also recognize that my experience is not standalone, that other people are going to have different experiences. And what I'm finding is that I actually now, to make sure that that the information is at least expressed correctly from my stand, that I've got to do some research on it. Look, prime example of the point that I'm trying to make is I know about the higher heart chakra. I've known about it for probably decades now, and I understand the function of it and all of that kind of thing. But when it comes to naming and describing it, I thought, oh, okay, I better find the correct name for it, as per the Veds. And then I found all this confusing misinformation where some people were referring to it as the thymus chakra and said that it was associated with the light blue. Now, the thing with that is, prime example of misunderstandings or confusion that just confuses everybody else, is the throat chakra is the one that is light blue, and the throat chakra is not the thymus gland, it is the thyroid glands. The thymus is actually situated, yes, in the higher heart chakra, and it's butterfly shaped. And this is to really fully understand this and to make sure we're expressing correctly, a chakra governs a particular set of body organs. And so this I'm needing to put up on the website as well. So when it comes to the higher heart chakra, where it sits is actually directly over the top of this thymus gland, which is butterfly shaped. And it is associated, I would say, really deep level trauma and emotional pain, phobias, anxiety, all of that kind of stuff. And anyway, I will put that content up further, but it is definitely not light blue, because that would be the throat chakra, which sits at the bottom of the neck. If you put your two fingers into that soft part of your neck, that's where the throat chakra sits. The thymus chakra, which higher heart chakra, I haven't found the Ved name for that. I don't think, not yet. But anyway, that kind of sits just at the top of your cleavage. Probably easier for the ladies to find. But anyway, whatever. That's where I'm at. I'm working on it. It's coming, okay? So as far as the Crystal Magic playlist goes, yep, okay, that one I've been managing to get on top of, all right? So I've got a number of videos there that I'm working on. Also, I have got, as I said, so many crystals coming in at the moment, I can't even remember. I know I'm bringing pyrite in. I've managed to get some really cute little things like pyrite tortoises and that. So anyway, the plan is that I will keep doing the videos, including on some of the crystals that I'm bringing in. One of them is Mystic Merlinite. I'm actually quite interested to take a look at that one and experiment with it, and I'll be doing a video on that one as well. And I'm just putting this list up of the Synergy 12 again, basically so that we're all aware of it. I would like to work with some of them. I've got to say that, once again, when we talk about the benefits and attributes of crystals, it's always going to be personal. Some will not, like I might use something and not find it to be fantastic, and somebody else might, I might use something that I do find to be fantastic, but somebody else is going to have a different experience of it. So when we talk about the Synergy 12, I had a look at this, and I love Tibetan Tektite. I really, really do. But I just don't understand why it would be put up there as one of the most powerful crystals that you could have. It's a lovely crystal, but you know what I mean? I just don't even really understand how a person can turn around and say this one's more powerful than others. Oh, actually, I think the key is maybe I probably should buy the book, but I don't really want to. Just saying it as it is. The Synergy 12 is apparently they work really well together. So I guess if you were going to use something like Phenacite, which of course I love, you might want to work with Tibetan Tektite because it helps to ground. Just a thought. Somebody might be able to answer that. Ilian, if you're around and still watching the videos, I bet you know the answers. So this week, when it comes to the content that's been loaded, yes, Iolite has been loaded, of course, so you will have been able to access that. I've got the Iolite coming. I'm looking forward to trying it out. Tanzanite as well, obviously going with the blues here. I really like the blues. That one has been loaded as well. This week we're going to be looking at Apophyllite. I've got the transcripts. I've actually completed these to the point of I've just got to record the audio for them. Look, I've got to say that when it comes to getting Apophyllite images, it's actually not as easy as you would think. My experience has actually generally been with the clear Apophyllite, but they don't photograph terribly well for my videos. And then the other one for this week too is honey calcite. Another one of my favourites. I've got to say, I actually really love honey calcite. Just one of my favourites. Anyway, that video will be loaded this week as well. I've got plenty of it around, been using it for years. If you've got experience of using it, let us know. Anyway, that video will be up probably Thursday if I can get my time management sorted out. So, my friends, if you've made it this far, go you. This is about as much information as I can share with you today. So before I go, I've got to go and do some things today. I've got a lot of tasks, and of course, my time management at the moment is nothing to be admired with. I will just say, look, blessed day, take care, stay safe, love you, leave you, catch you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.